Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher of the 18th century, revolutionized the way we think about knowledge, perception, and reality. His Critique of Pure Reason, 1781, stands as one of the most influential works in Western philosophy, offering profound insights into the nature of human cognition and the limits of what we can know. But as one might imagine, Kant's writing is dense and challenging. In this episode, we will explore the core ideas of Kant's philosophy, breaking them down into more digestible concepts that are relevant to our everyday experience. By the end, we hope to understand why Kant's ideas are so transformative and what they reveal about the boundaries of human knowledge. What is the Critique of Pure Reason? At its core, Kant's Critique of Pure Reason is an investigation into how we come to know things and what we can truly know. Kant was grappling with two dominant schools of thought in his time: empiricism, represented by philosophers like John Locke and David Hume, which argued that knowledge comes from sensory experience, what we see, hear, touch, etc., and rationalism, represented by philosophers like René Descartes and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, which argued that knowledge comes from reason, what we can deduce logically without needing sensory input. Kant wanted to synthesize these two perspectives, and in doing so, revolutionize our understanding of human knowledge. His central question was, how is knowledge possible? And his answer? Knowledge is not just about receiving data from the external world or deducing it from pure reason. Rather, knowledge is a product of both our senses and our mental faculties. Kant believed that while we can know many things, there are inherent limits to what we can know about the world. His work centers on distinguishing between what he calls phenomena, the world as we experience it, and noumena, the world as it is in itself, independent of our perception. Kant's central insight: the phenomenal versus the noumenal world. One of Kant's most important contributions is his distinction between the phenomenal world and the noumenal world. The phenomenal world is the world as we experience it, filtered through our senses and shaped by the structures of our mind. It is the world we can know. We don't experience things directly. Instead, we experience them through the lens of our perception, which is influenced by both external objects and our mental faculties. The noumenal world is the world as it exists in itself, independent of our perception. Kant argued that we cannot have any knowledge of this world because it lies beyond the limits of human experience. It is the realm of things in themselves, and since we can never directly perceive or experience it, it is ultimately unknowable. This distinction is crucial. Kant is not saying that the noumenal world doesn't exist. Rather, he claims that we, as human beings, are incapable of knowing it directly. All of our knowledge is confined to the phenomenal world, and that's all we can ever know. The role of human cognition: how we know what we know. Kant's philosophy challenges the traditional view that we passively receive knowledge from the external world. Instead, he argues that our minds play a central role in shaping what we know. In other words, our experience of the world is not just a simple reflection of the world out there, but is actively constructed by our mental faculties. Kant identifies two key concepts involved in human cognition: intuition and concepts. Kant uses the term intuition to refer to the raw data of experience, what we perceive with our senses. For Kant, intuition is not limited to sight, sound, and touch. It includes the ways in which we spatially and temporally organize the world. Concepts are the mental categories that we use to interpret and make sense of the raw data provided by our senses. Concepts help us organize our experience, giving structure to the chaotic flow of sensory information. Examples of concepts might include causality, time, space, and substance. Together, intuition and concepts form the basis of human knowledge. However, Kant argues that both are structured by certain innate mental categories, which he refers to as a priori forms of knowledge. These are the basic ways in which the human mind organizes experience, particularly space and time. Kant believed that certain fundamental aspects of human existence, like space, time, and causality, are not derived from experience, but are inherent in the way we perceive the world. These are what Kant calls a priori categories, meaning they exist in the mind prior to any experience and shape our perception of the world. Space is not something we learn from experience. Rather, it is a form of intuition through which we organize our perceptions of objects. We cannot think of objects existing outside of space, and our experiences are necessarily spatial. Similarly, time is not something we experience directly through the senses. It is an a priori condition for the organization of events in our consciousness. We cannot experience events without placing them in the flow of time. Kant also argued that our understanding of cause and effect is an a priori concept. We do not experience causes and effects directly from the world, but our mind actively imposes a causal structure onto events. These a priori categories are crucial because they shape how we understand the world. Without them, Kant argued, we would have no coherent experience of anything at all. A posteriori knowledge, on the other hand, is knowledge that is dependent on experience. It is empirical, meaning it arises from sensory perception of the world around us. For example, the sky is blue, or the cat is on the mat. This type of knowledge comes from the senses and is contingent, subject to change based on experience. While Kant's theory emphasizes that our minds are active participants in shaping our experience of the world, it also introduces profound limitations on what we can know. Kant argues that the limits of human knowledge are determined by the very structure of our minds. Because we cannot step outside of our mental categories, we are incapable of knowing the world as it truly is in itself, the noumenal world. We are bound to experience the world only through the lens of our perceptual and conceptual faculties, which shape and limit our knowledge. To put it simply, we cannot know things as they are independently of us. We can only know them as they appear to us. For Kant, this means that our knowledge is always incomplete and constrained. While we can know a great deal about the world, there are inherent limitations to what we can truly understand. Practical implications. What does this mean for us? Kant's philosophy has profound implications for how we think about knowledge, reality, and the human experience. Here are a few key takeaways. The limits of objectivity. Kant challenges the idea that we can know the world objectively and completely. While we can have reliable knowledge of the world as it appears to us, we can never know the thing in itself, noumenon. This means that all knowledge is in some way subjective. Our experience is shaped by our minds, and we can never escape the framework of human cognition. The role of perception. Kant's emphasis on perception suggests that the way we see the world is not a passive process. Our minds actively shape and organize experience. This means that different people, with different mental frameworks, might perceive the world in fundamentally different ways. This insight foreshadows many ideas in modern psychology and phenomenology, which recognize that perception is shaped by our experiences, background, and mental filters. Ethical implications. Kant also made important contributions to ethics, particularly through his categorical imperative, a principle that urges us to act according to rules we would want to apply universally. This idea of universal morality is grounded in the notion that our knowledge of right and wrong is not based on contingent experiences, but is a product of the inherent rational structures of the mind. Philosophical humility. Kant's view invites us to be humble about our knowledge. While we can strive for understanding and reason about the world, we must recognize that our knowledge is always conditioned by our faculties, and that the ultimate nature of reality may always remain beyond our grasp. Kant's critique of pure reason marked a turning point in the history of philosophy. His insights laid the groundwork for many subsequent developments, including German idealism, phenomenology, and existentialism. Kant's ideas also influenced modern science, particularly in the philosophy of mind and epistemology. While we may never fully know the world as it is in itself, Kant's philosophy encourages us to seek understanding within the limits of our human faculties. By acknowledging the boundaries of human knowledge, we can pursue a more modest yet deeply meaningful engagement with the world around us. In the end, Kant's profound insight is a reminder. The world is far richer and more complex than we can fully comprehend, but our minds are powerful tools for making sense of the world as it appears to us. The journey toward understanding, though limited, is one of continual discovery. Thanks for joining me on an exploration of Kant's critique of pure reasoning. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it and to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next videos. We'll see you then, and until that time, don't forget to keep thinking and keep asking questions. Bye for now.